pads, textures, drones, all really cool and essential tools to adding extra layers and atmosphere to your music and your recordings, and a lot of times it helps to immerse your listeners even further into your music. Okay, so now that we have a bit more atmosphere in the room, we're going to be taking a look at a brand new company for this channel that reached out to me last week asking if I would like to take a look at some of their products. Now, this company is called Emergence Audio. They seem really, really cool so far. The guy that I've spoken to, Mike, with the communication we've had has been really awesome, and I'm really excited to check out some of the instruments that they have. So today, we're going to be taking a look at something called Quantum. Now, as far as I can tell, this is like a synthesizer type of instrument with pads, textures, layers, all sorts of fun stuff, all wrapped up in a nice little package that runs in Contact 8. So what I would like to do is kind of just dive into this blind and see what this thing can do, because I have not heard of Emergence Audio before now, really. I've not heard of Quantum, and this is a really good opportunity to kind of get a first reaction, first look into what they can offer with what I believe is one of their more popular plugins. Okay, so I'm going to stop yapping and we're going to just kind of jump into the plugin. We'll do a quick little overview here as far as I'm aware of how the plugin works, and then we'll just jump into a bunch of sounds, because why else are you here? So the main default setup for this plugin is actually really simple, and you've probably seen other plugins like it before. You essentially have your sound. That is comprised of two different samples. And as you can see over here on the left with Destiny Cloud, and over here on the right with Frozen in the Sky, those are the two samples that are being combined right now for this default sound. Now, with each of those samples, you have your typical ADSR controls. If you don't know what those are, attack, decay, sustain, and release. Very common synthesizer stuff. Do a little bit of research if you're not sure how those work. You can also link and unlink those, so that's nice. Looks like you've also got some low pass and high pass filters that you can adjust with your cutoff, resonance, and panning. Really super cool. This looks like an expression knob. I'm going to assume that that's what that is. And it looks like you can also link the high and low pass between the two samples, which is useful because a lot of times I'll cut a lot of low end out of these types of pads and drones to fit it better in a song mix overall. And then with the cutoff, the resonance, and the panning, you can link these to the master LFO by turning these on here, these little lights, and then you can adjust how much you are sending to the LFO with the little amplitude meter here at the bottom of each of those parameters. And that is relative. I want to make note of that. I've seen the overview that Emergence Audio has sent for me before I looked at this plugin. That is relative, so if you have the main LFO at 60%, but you set this send percentage of cutoff at 50%, then what's really going to happen with cutoff is it's going to be 50% of 60%, which is half or 30%. So there's a little bit of math involved, but in the end, that's better, in my opinion, because it keeps things a lot more controlled and less wild and chaotic, and it's easier to keep track of. So that's really cool, and you can also turn on and off the phase just in case you're having any kind of conflicts. Then you've also got the middle section here, because the right side is exactly the same, minus it looks like you've got a random knob here, or random button to pick some kind of random sample here on one side, or on both. Oh, nope, it randomizes everything, it looks like. So that's cool too. You can randomize everything. Awesome. And then you've got the expression side on the left. In the middle, this is your main LFO modulation adjustment. So this knob here, as far as I'm aware, goes between the two samples. Well, let's pick a better setup. We'll go back to default because that random one was very quiet. But so that's Destiny Cloud, and that is Frozen in the Sky. So then you can adjust this if you really want to with the LFO and have it, you know, modulate between the two in various different ways, if that makes sense. So you can turn on LFO or turn it off, and you can set the wave type between sine, triangle, saw, square, and random. And then you can adjust the rate by dragging left and right, how quickly you want it to modulate, and you can adjust the amplitude or the depth by dragging up and down for whatever modulation you have going on. So that's really cool, honestly, in my opinion. So if I turn this on here and I want the LFO turned on as well to modulate between the two here, then it's gonna do that. If I want to slow it down, I can slow, or I can adjust the depth of how far I want it to modulate between the two. And that's really cool. And of course, like I said, you can adjust the wave so you can have it do things in a more stepped sequence or a more smooth sequence. Really cool adjustments to have there. You can also adjust the send of both sides like this with the little waves at the bottom of each of the volume knobs for each of the samples. So that's pretty much the main page of the Infinite Motion Engine 2.0 from Emergence Audio, and that's kind of how this works. It's a pretty basic synthesizer setup with some nice little tidbits and tricks and treats in there for you to mess with if you are a fan of synthesizers like this. So otherwise, it's a pretty simple, pretty common layout for these types of plugins. But then you go over to the effects section as well, and you've got a bunch of these IRs, which are impulse responses. And those basically just measure the response of audio in a given signal chain or a given space. I use a lot of impulse responses with guitar cabs through my Neural DSP plugins and stuff like that. When you're picking a new cabinet, a lot of times it's just an impulse response of a signal chain of a mic'd up cabinet. So this is pretty much the same as well for different reverbs and scenarios for atmosphere with whatever you're playing through this plugin. So that's really nice to have. And you also have a dry and wet knob here with these setups here, with a high pass, with a low pass, with a pre-delay and a sigh. So that's really nice. I really like that. And you can turn this on and off if you want. So really nice to have. You've also got some delay if you want. You have all the typical controls with delay. And I believe the panning here adjusts a ping pong effect of some type. So it's really cool to have that as an addition as well. And then you've also got a phaser you can turn on. You've got distortion. So that's really cool. You've also got a rotator. So that's really cool. I believe that simulates a rotating speaker in terms of how like the recording of that sound plays through. Like if you're recording a speaker that's like spinning, I believe is what the explanation was. You've also got a width adjuster here. You can get more of a stereo spread with your sound. You've also got some saturation. That's really nice. You've also got chorus. So pretty simple stuff. You've also got, some other stuff here. You can add some color and some noise. You've also got a lo-fi setting. Oh, that's what this is, lo-fi. So you can adjust the noise and the color of the lo-fi, and then you can add bits. That's cool. that's really cool. I always like a bit of like a bit crusher and stuff like this. It adds just like a little extra something that tickles my brain in a certain way, because I like the sci-fi and the thriller type of soundtracks, and that really plays to that really nicely. So good job on that. I like that. And then you've also got some warmth and some gain here with, looks like tape saturation. So that's really cool. That's really cool. And then it looks like you have a high frequency roll off, which is really nice to have in these scenarios. And then that's like your effects. And again, you can adjust all of these with the send effects in terms of how much is being sent where and how that's affecting different things. And it looks like you can chain them together in different ways between what sample is getting affected by this. Like if you want only sample 1 to get some of this reverb, you can do that. Or if you want sample 2 to get all the reverb, you can do that, or you can have them both. So between the 2 samples you have on the main page, you can send these effects to each one differently. So that's really nice. It's not like an overall global effect on everything. You can kind of pick and choose where you want it to go. So that's a nice added touch. Okay, so now that we've gotten that out of the way, or if you've skipped the overview at this point, because there are chapters on this video, we're gonna take a look at the sounds now. The whole reason why you're even here, because you wanna listen to this thing and see what kind of sounds it has to offer. Am I right? Okay, so now that I've added a little bit too much atmosphere back into my studio here, we're gonna create some sonic atmospheres with this plugin. So with the drop-down menu, we've got a few different sections: correlated, infinite drones, infinite pads, keys, pulses, and swells. I was told to maybe start with infinite drones and pads, so that is where we will begin. So, infinite drones, what do you have to offer? Down a little bit. Okay, so that's definitely a dark kind of drone there. Let's pull up the dark well infinite drone. What's the difference between drone and infinite drone? Let's find out. So I think they kind of randomize where it starts in the sample, and that's how they get kind of the infinite loop here. It's not the same as like round robin, but it just kind of, whatever technology they have made in their fancy studio to create this plugin just kind of keeps things going. And I really like that, because it's nice to have something that is infinitely going and infinitely changing. Ominous infinite drone. Now you know me, I like things ominous, so what is the ominous infinite drone? Ooh, there's a little pitch bendiness in there. I like it. Yeah. I like it. It's just a nice, like, drone that you can throw underneath something and add some really crazy, like, atmosphere to, like, a chorus, or even just, like, if you're doing a film score or something like that. I like that one. That's got some like voice stuff in it. I'm a sucker for voice stuff and like pads and stuff like that, and like ensemble style instruments, much like Scene Nightshade. I really like the weird voice stuff, because Scene Nightshade from Native Instruments has some like weird whispery, like creepy stuff in it, in a lot of the pads, and I really like that kind of stuff because I like the creepy stuff. That really adds that ominous vibe that I like a lot. Ooh, ominous voices. See, speaking of voices, we got voices. Whoa. That bouncing back and forth is really cool. But you can see how this works, right? So it's got this weird bouncing back and forth effect, but you can see that the wave down here is at random, so it's got this step. There's no like smooth transition between the two. It's going doo 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 because it's got these steps, and that's kind of like how the LFO stuff works. And you can see how crazy that looks under the knob here. But so if you're not familiar with stuff, that's kind of a more like straight up example of how this type of stuff works. But I want to go low, even lower. See, I like that, but honestly, I would change it to something like sine to get more of a smooth transition. But you can't sit there and tell me you couldn't hear this in Alien or something like Interstellar or something. Like, this plugin gives me very spacey vibes, and I think maybe that's probably the point. I think most synthesizers are going to have that spacey vibe to them in the first place, but this is, for whatever reason, crying out very much like spacey vibes to me. Like 80s thriller, spacey, sci-fi type of vibes. And I'm a sucker for that, so I'm really excited. Time Crystals Infinite Drone. What in the hell are time crystals? Let's go up a little higher, shall we? See, again, like my brain immediately goes to spaceship. That's cool. That's exactly what this is. It is spaceship sci-fi stuff. I really like it. And drones are something, again, you're not playing like crazy chords or anything complex with them. You're literally just like holding a note, and your hopes are that it kind of changes and evolves enough over time to keep an interesting sound going, and it's not just, you're just like beep for 2 minutes straight. Like, it evolves and it changes and it creates an atmosphere. And you could definitely use drones as like the only sound playing on something, but a lot of times you kind of put it underneath other stuff to kind of fill out your sound. Now let's go to pads, which are a lot of times maybe a little more melodic and a little less like atonal. So let's pull up what looks interesting. Well, speaking of, there's an atonal pad. But let's look up chaos, algorithmic chaos, and see what that sounds like. Makes me think of like Blade Runner. I like that one a lot. Let's pull up Calamity Infinite Pad. See what that sounds like. Start low, lower. like this. This sounds really cool. But it's, for Calamity, it sounds very calm. But if we go up higher, that's a very like calm, floating in space kind of vibe. I like that one too. That's really nice. Let's see. Let's look up Dimension Scanner. What does that sound like? Ooh. See, a type of pad sound or like a synthy, paddy drone type of thing that has a little bit, like not like the whole entire pad, but like little parts in between that have some type of oversaturated, distorted type of vibe going on that you can hear in this. Just enough grit. Makes me so happy. Yes. Yes, just yes. Oh, hold up. See, now the names just really want me to look at a lot of these. And I mean, why not? Let's just look at a bunch because we want to hear sounds. Dream state. What is dream state? Pretty nifty. Not my favorite so far. Dust particles. Give me some Dune type of stuff, please. That may be my favorite one so far. Dust particles, S tier. That is like really, oh, there's a lot more. I didn't see there was a whole page down. Okay. Whew, boy, there's a lot to go through here, but it's cool that you have so many options. Like, it gives you so many different things that you can run through. And then again, for the same reasons why I love Heaviosity plugins so much, this also offers you a huge amount of customization, so you can manipulate the sound and make it your own if you don't like the exact preset. It just allows you to make it infinitely yours. What is doing that though in the effects? Nothing? Is that just a sample? I like the unstable tune. It's like slow vibrato. And it's emerged on both samples. Okay. Yes. Oh yes. I like odd places too. I like odd places. That sounds interesting, but wow. Okay, we'll check out one more because we got some other categories to go through. So let's pick a good one. Sandy wave, scattered communication, swallow the sky. Swallow the sky. What is that? Very soft. Very, very soft. Very kind of tranquil, soft one there. Really nice. Listen, this has already, hooked me, and I can see a lot of ways of using this plugin already. I like it a lot. So now we've got keys, I guess. So is this going to be more playable stuff that's not so patty and droney, or is this going to be more... Oh, no, it is. Okay, sweet. That's one thing that I find in a lot of plugins that kind of focus on drones and textures and pads and stuff, is that you have to use another plugin for extra sounds, like if you want something that's a little more responsive and staccato like keys. And that's not always the biggest issue in the world, but if you can also have similar sounds that fit with the drones and stuff well already in the same plugin that are playable keys and stuff, it's a win-win. Like, just... Nice. No, I mean, it's not anything crazy special, but it does fit. I stand corrected. Woo! I like those. It makes me think of like underwater levels in video games. Or that one song that was going around on TikTok and stuff that was like a nostalgic, 90s baby, early 2000s baby type of sound. And I think it was an underwater theme from something, but I don't remember what it was called. But it had this same type of... And it's kind of a nostalgic thing. It makes me think of those weird looking 90s carpets and Chuck E. Cheeses and stuff like that. And that's definitely been planted in my brain from those TikTok videos and memes and stuff. But do you remember Surge the drink? And going to Chuck E. Cheese with your friends? Do you remember dial-up internet? Stuff like that. Those might be my favorite keys. They sound very Stranger Things-esque. Notation keys. Those can be for a very specific sound. I don't know if I'd use them all the time, but Omega keys. Oh, even more so than the other ones. What were the other ones called? Nebula. Omega keys are even more of that nostalgic 90s TikTok underwater meme thing. Straight up. It's really cool. I like that. That's it's a very specific type of sound, but it's really cool. Putting that into some metal would be really interesting. Maybe that's something I should do. Ripples. We'll check out ripples. Not my favorite, but thin air. Okay, it's just established. These keys in this are very much that underwater theme style keys. That's just what it is. Yeah, there's no running away from that. That is exactly what it is. So now I got pulses, all right? Don't worry, hang in there. We're still getting through it. Pulses. Calamity pulses. Now, pulses are also really cool. They're very similar to drones, but they add some rhythm in weird ways. So it gives some kind of motion and progression to what otherwise might be just like a plain drone where you get lost in time. It gives you something that feels like it's moving forward. Okay. Yep, that's cool. Event Horizon. Saw pulses. And I'm assuming for something like this, I forgot to mention in the beginning, but you do have a sync button to sync with your DAW with whatever tempo you're working on, or you can turn it off. Right now, I believe it's probably default to like 120. Okay. Now, I don't use a whole lot of pulses and stuff, and maybe I should start using them more. Pulsar pulses. I like the alliteration with that. See, that would be cool, like... That would be cool with like a pitch bend. Without it doing weird shit. But like, having it slightly detune and bend with some kind of pulse like that is really cool. I turned the pitch bend off on my jog wheel on my MPK because it's really hard. It's one of the downfalls, I guess, with the joystick style to adjust the modulation up and down without changing the pitch, and it would throw weird things off in a lot of the plugins I use. So I just kind of turned it off in the programming of the keyboard. So now I can't pitch bend left and right, but it's a good trade-off because I can do modulation up, down, left, and right. If it's got an XY pad, without messing with the pitch bend and making things weird and reset and stuff. So it's just a weird workaround. But okay, pulses. Yes, pulses are nice to have. We'll do one more. Thoughts? No, let's do Time Seeker. Time Seeker pulses. Pretty cool. Okay, yeah, pulses are nice to have. Swells. Algorithmic swells. We're on the last category. Hang in there. We're almost through the sounds. I like it, I like it, I like it. Now, I'm noticing, and maybe I should have adjusted this before, that I'm getting some pops here. So I need to adjust my interface just a tad bit because I don't have a big enough block size to allow this to work correctly, and I should have done that at the beginning. That's my fault. The popping and stuff that you heard sporadically through this is because I had my buffer size a little too low for when I'm playing my guitar, and I want like a quick low latency. That's my fault. Shouldn't have an issue now. Quantum Leap swells. Whoa. That's pretty wicked. I like the swells. Sporadic swells. Sporadic swells. Okay. Okay, so that's nice too. That's just, it gives you different, like what I would probably call like articulations with drones and pads. Like instruments have different articulations, like a lot of like orchestral string-based instruments will have pizzicato, tremolo, you know, sultana. It's got all types of different articulations because you can play the instruments differently. So with pads and drones and stuff, I take like swells and pulses and stuff like that. I consider those articulations of pads and drones and stuff like that. So it can give you the same kind of sound, but change up the texture and the rhythmic quality of it, and just give a little more, oomph to something, to change it up or to texturize, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so Quantum. I am surprised by how much I actually like this plugin. So, like, I think, honestly, the parts that I like the most are the drones and the pads, and the keys so far. The pulses and swells are nice to have if you want them, but, you know, I'm not too crazy about them. But I did notice we forgot about correlated. So let's check out correlated and see what that's all about before we wrap up. Let's load another one here. Crumbling Time. Or no, Crystal Canyon. I like that. That's cool. Yes. Crystal Canyon, that kind of gritty sound, I love it. Ones and zeros correlate. So these must be like correlated. These must be, I'm not really sure what correlated is. I guess I don't remember what it said in the info pack or anything, or video. That's cool. Again, it makes me think of like spaceship. Robots, AI. That's very cool. No, that one is very cool as well. I figured it was going to be something like that with ones and zeros as a name. Like, oh, it's binary. Let's do underneath correlated. Shall we? detune thing about it. Wow. Can we go see zero? Kind of. There's definitely a stringed cello or bass or double bass in this sample. I can hear it. There's gotta be. That's really cool. I like that. We'll check out one more correlated. So these must be like a mix kind of patch. I'm not sure. I don't remember anything being said about correlated really. But they sound really cool. Let's do entropy. Entropy correlated. Oh, it's a lot low. You can see it's cut off on the piano roll. As I play a note directly out of the range. So this gives you a lot of that sub frequency. Okay. But you can see where you'd add this underneath other tracks to give an atmosphere and a vibe. Yeah, that's I like that. Whatever correlated is, it's really cool to have. Really cool playable stuff. Just more different textures and sounds that you can add to create a huge, evolving, and crazy atmosphere. Which, speaking of, one second, we're losing the atmosphere in the studio. We can't have that. Okay, so that is Quantum by Emergence Audio. A really, really cool synthesizer, drone, pad instrument. And I'm really glad I've gotten the chance to check it out because it gives me another tool that I am most definitely going to use to add those extra layers to my work, whether it's soundtrack orchestral stuff or if it's in my metal stuff. I could see this being used in both. And now I know a lot of people have words about synthesizer plugins and drone plugins like this where they're like, oh, they're all the same, they sound the same, and blah, blah, blah. But they don't. Don't listen to them. Those are naysayers. I will take all sorts of different kinds of textures and stuff because it's fun to combine them and get different sounds. Not every plugin's going to have the same samples or the same engines or the same parameters that you can mess with or effects. It's all going to be something special and unique, and that is why you do it, because there's cool stuff in there that you can never really otherwise do unless you want to be that person that uses Vital to recreate every sound possible, but then you have to do all the legwork and create it yourself, and I'm not going to spend the time to do that. I would much rather pull something up like Quantum and be able to pick some kind of preset and get instantly sounding cool stuff that I didn't have to create and just allow it to enhance my music tenfold, because it's just an awesome plugin and I could see it being used everywhere. Now, there's one thing that I noticed with this plugin that I'm not a huge fan of so far, and it's definitely something that can be fixed in updates, I believe. I noticed a couple times that some of the presets that I was using were a little too loud and were starting to clip at the default input volume in Contact. And I had to kind of adjust the volume a little bit. Now, that can definitely be adjusted in an update, I think. Again, I'm not a software developer, so I'm not sure if that is possible or not. I believe it is. But it was tricky a couple times that I had to adjust that so that it wasn't clipping and peaking the audio. So that's something that maybe they can take a look at, and I'll definitely mention it to them when I get the chance. But the clicking and popping and stuff that was sporadically in there earlier in the video is not their fault. That's my fault. I forgot to adjust the buffer size of my audio interface. It wasn't happening enough for me to go look at it until I did. So that's on me. Otherwise, Quantum is another really awesome synth plugin that I'm going to add to my toolkit, because the pads and the drones in this thing are just like super exquisite. And the keys, that nostalgic sound, underwater theme type keys, come on. I mean, you know I'm right. So Really cool stuff in this. I really like it. I'm pleasantly surprised at what it has to offer, and I've got really nothing bad to say about it. So thank you to the folks over at Emergence Audio for allowing me to take a look at this. It's really awesome. So yeah, if you liked this video, make sure to like and hit subscribe if you haven't already, and show this to a friend because maybe they'll want to buy Quantum. And I will see you guys in the next video. Stay metal, my friends.